Every new year, I send out a survey to my email list of secondary science teachers, and I ask you all what you need help with. And I literally read every single response. Like there are hundreds of them, and I essentially spend 2 weeks reading every single response. And that's how I plan out these episodes for basically the entire school year. And when I was reviewing these responses back in February, I had so many teachers almost send me like their confessions, kind of saying like, hey, I'm embarrassed to say this, but this is how I really feel. And I thought, you know what? We need to do a confessional series. And it really reminded me as a millennial of the MTV True Life series. Do you guys remember those if you're a millennial? I graduated high school in 2008, so that's kind of the time frame I'm going with here. But it would be something like True Life, I can't get over my first love, or True Life, I need a transplant. Like there were it was staggering, the themes here. But I keep having that in my mind. So that's the series, that's the theme we're going with this month. It's going to be True Life Teacher Confessions. All of these will be shared anonymously from you all. And I think and I hope that you guys will resonate and that this will remove some shame from people who are also feeling these types of feelings, and also provide some practical tips to kind of move through some of these feelings that some of you are having about different aspects of the job. So today we're going to start off this series, the True Life series, tackling True Life. I'm a science teacher who hates labs. There were so many people who submitted things in the survey that said things along the lines of, I hate lab days, I dread them, I skip them all the time because I just don't have the energy in me to do them. And so I want you to know, if you resonate with any of those feelings, you are not alone. Tons of people feel the same way. And so we are going to talk exactly how to combat that. Let's dive in. This is Secondary Science Simplified, a podcast for secondary science teachers who want to engage their students and simplify their lives. I'm Rebecca Joyner from It's Not Rocket Science. As a high school science teacher turned curriculum writer, I am passionate about helping other science teachers love their jobs, serve their students, and do it all in only 40 hours a week. Are you ready to rock the time you spend in your classroom and actually have a life outside of it? You are in the right place, teacher friend. Let's get to today's episode. Like I said at the start, if you are a science teacher who hates labs or just maybe dreads lab days, I just want you to hear loud and clear that you are not alone. Again, so many people submitted similar confessions to this, but I'm going to read you one sample of a confession I got from a teacher in my survey results. It went like this. I hate labs. I hate the chaos of the day. I hate having to set up before, and I hate the mess that the students make. I'm a science teacher who hates labs. Ugh. Okay, that was one. Here's another one. A totally different person. I tend to not do labs because doing them for the first time takes forever, all caps, to figure out and set up. So sometimes I just avoid them altogether or do an online lab instead. Sad, frowny face. Okay, a third person said, I need help with the ROI for labs, which, if you don't know, ROI is the return on your investment. Like, is it worth it? Okay. And the teacher said, making sure that the time and money, since I'm usually spending my own, prepping, monitoring, and grading labs is worth the particular activity we're doing. Like, is the wow or the fun factor justification enough, or is the lab truly driving the lesson home? It just doesn't always seem like it's worth it. Okay. So those are the kinds of things that I'm hearing in these messages from y'all. Again, those are just 3 samples. But as I'm kind of summarizing what I'm reading, what I'm hearing from you guys, I think the biggest pain points are, number 1, chaos around lab day. Number 2 would be time, whether that's time to prep, time to execute them, time to grade them. And 3 would be the ROI, that return on investment. I think especially from an energy expenditure, but also a money expenditure for a lot of you paying for these labs out of pocket. And then, of course, time. Like, if I'm going to put all of this money, energy, time into this, like, it better be worth it. I better get a return on that investment. Okay, so we're going to address all 3 of those today. And first, let me say before we do, I just want you to know that I hear you. I'm not trying to just slap a Band-Aid on your pain points and say, like, this will fix all the things. Like, I just want you to know labs are hard and they can be chaotic, and they definitely do take a lot of time. It is faster to do a practice worksheet. It's faster to do an activity. It's much faster to do an online simulation. So all of that to say, I agree with you. Like, it better be worth it if you're going to do them. And that's what I want to help you troubleshoot here. So that's the first thing I want to tell all of you, whether lab days feel chaotic, if it's a time problem, if it's an ROI problem. The first thing we have to address is you do not need to do labs just to do labs. I say this all the time on this podcast, no more labs for the sake of doing labs. I think so often the problem is not labs in general. It's that we're not doing the right labs. And then you're spending all of this, again, energy, time, money on a lab that's just like, wah. Like, it's just a reason for students to get out of their seats. It's a reason for you to check off that students are spending, 30 or 40% of the instructional time in lab. Like, it's just checking a box here and not doing much more than that. And I don't know about you, but that is not enough ROI for me. Like, if I'm going to put in all of this time and energy, and again, money, because I've been there. That's why I write my curricula the way I do, because I have been in a school where I've had zero science budget, zero science materials. So I'm buying everything myself from Amazon, from Walmart. I'm adding things onto my grocery order for the lab. I hear you. And so I believe that the solution to all of that, one of the solutions, because we're going to hit 3 today, is not doing labs just to do them. And so I'm not saying don't do labs. I'm just saying be extremely strategic about the labs that you choose to do so that you know it's worth it. Okay, so for example, one of my best labs that I do, it's the one that like students were always like, I can't wait to be in Ms. Joyner's biology class because we get to do ecosystem in a bottle. Okay, I have it available a la carte in my store. I'll link it. You can just see it. There's so many derivations of this online, but I have my version there. It's also in my ecology unit, which is in my biology curriculum, but it is a major expenditure of energy, time, and money. Okay, first, I always made sure I did get a purchase order for this. This was like the one lab that I was like, this is expensive, but this is like our largest learning thing that we do a year. Like, I'm not paying for this. So I had to do all the time though of the research of even like pricing out all the materials, submitting the paperwork, getting it approved at the front office. Like, even though I wasn't paying for this one out of pocket, even that was so much time and energy. Then it's one of those labs where you have to go the night before setup and get all the stuff. Like, I would go at like 5 p.m. and I'd hit up the local pet store, hit up, your local like home and garden supply shop, like get all the stuff. Then I'd be back at the school around 6 or 7, unloading it all in a cart, sweating my hiney off, getting it all into my classroom and set up. The nice thing is, again, I always did this in the spring. So at least I was never alone. There was always a bunch of people there doing soccer and, the sun was out later. So it wasn't like I was doing this in the dark, but it was still a lot. And then the next day, it basically takes up the whole day. Your room is shot. It becomes a disaster to set up. But if you can get through that really crazy, chaotic first 2 days, then they have this month-long investigation that they're able to do and observe. And the learning that they get from it is so memorable. The ROI is so high for me on this one. So it's one of those labs that like I would rather cut every lab in my ecology unit so that I could have the energy, time, money, and yes, just space to do ecosystem in a bottle because I know that it's worth it. It is so worth the ROI. And so that's why I want to really encourage you, like, let's audit the labs you're doing. They're not all going to even be that intense. That's the most intense lab I do in any of my classes all year long. But they're not all like that. But that's why we need to audit them. Okay. And I have a lab audit for you. And I have a podcast episode. It walks you through exactly how to do this to make sure you're really choosing labs for the right reasons. And they don't all have to be the most meaningful learning experience ever. The reason you keep the lab could just be because it is fun. That is totally fine. I will walk you through exactly like how to work through the thought process of knowing which labs to keep, which to toss, and which to replace. And that's in my Labs Win Limited free virtual professional development course. This is a support document. It comes with the course. It's a 2-hour online virtual PD. It's pre-recorded. You can do it anytime you want. You just need to go to itsnorocketscienceclassroom.com/labswinlimited with these dashes in it. I'll link it in the show notes. And that will take you there. You put in your email address and it comes as a zip folder into your inbox and you can get it right away. But I highly recommend auditing your labs and get really, really granular here on, is it worth it? Is it not? Now, if you've never taught a course before, This is where you can't necessarily do this because you just won't know until you do it. But this is such a great process to walk through for like the course that you've taught at least once. And so you have some sort of baseline to go off of like, is this worth it or not? 10 out of 10 recommend. The second thing I want you to do is once you know if a lab is worthwhile or not, that it has that ROI, then the second very simple thing you need to do is block off more time than you think. Like for example, I find typically for teachers who teach like 45, 50, 55-minute classes, we often block off like 1 or 2 days for a lab. I think you need to block off 3. Like if you're teaching a 50-minute class period, I would block off 3. Now, most likely I found that I needed like 2.25 days. If I'm getting, again, really granular here, I needed like that 0.25 would be on the front end to introduce, prep, get them ready for what's going on in the lab. Then I needed a full day of data collection and cleanup and maybe getting started on graphing and analyzing. And then I needed another full day of just like analyzing, graphing, concluding, all of that jazz. Now, of course, some labs are different, but I often find half of the problem, half of the reason why you're stressed and you find it chaotic on lab day is because you're rushing. You're trying to do too much within the class period and it feels crazy and you're worried they're not going to get the data and then the lab's going to be done halfway through. But I find if you block off more time, you do all that prep work and the explanation and the going over the day before, then lab day is really data collection day. And the only goal is to get the data. And then from there, we have a whole nother day to do all the other things to make sure we really understand what we're doing. I find that that is so helpful to have more time for that. Another thing about this too, in terms of time, is grade your labs differently. Who says that you need to collect and grade every part of every lab you do? I definitely do not do that. Now, I have a bunch of paid virtual professional development courses that are a part of the Secondary Science Simplified bundle of courses. Labs is one of those mini courses. It's one of the units. There's 7 units. One is specifically on labs, and I talk a ton about grading there. So I'm not going to get into it. But just consider like that one question. Who is like putting your hand on the fire, making you grade every lab all the way in every part of it? I would really reconsider how you're doing that. And then my third tip for you is specifically about the chaos and the chaos of lab day, like data collection. You're like, okay, I block off more time so we're not rushing, but the day is still so chaotic. This is where you need to get ruthless about your procedures for lab day. You need to write procedures for lab day and how your days are going to go and how they'll be run. You need to teach those to your students. You need to train them in them. You need to repeat that over and over and over again. For example, this is totally a side analogy example, okay? But here's my example for you. We go to a lot of kids' birthday parties because I have 3 children, and it's such a blessing to have them after 3 years of unexplained infertility. So I'm not complaining at all, but we go to a lot of birthday parties. And so I have trained my children, because it matters to me, hey, when we get to a birthday party, what's the first thing we do? And they all can repeat after me, even my 3-year-old. We find whoever's birthday it is, they'll say the child's name. We'll find Caleb and we'll say, happy birthday, thank you for having me. That's the first thing we do. Then we play, we talk about being respectful. How do we ask for things from adults who are there? And then we always talk about, okay, what's the last thing we do when we leave a birthday party? We go to the parents or the guardians, whatever adult's in charge, and we say, thank you so much for having me. Like we're going to show our gratitude. This is something that I care about. So I have procedures now for how we handle kids' birthday parties. And I've taught them to my children and I've trained them in them and we repeat them. There's not one time we go to a birthday party where we're not in my minivan and I'm saying, okay, what are we going to do first? Whatever. And my 7-year-old's like rolling his eyes because he's been hearing this for 7 years of his life. Okay. But that's how it should be with lab days. We think they're chaotic because we're expecting our students to act some type of way and we haven't trained them in how to act. So we have to teach them how to do it. And now here's how I like to do that. I personally really like to start the year, no matter what course it is, whatever prep it is, with some sort of lab in my first unit that's a pretty robust lab. You have a lot of labs, like at least for me personally, I have a lot of labs that are like partial. Like, they might write a hypothesis, but the materials and procedures are there. They get the data, but then the focus is really on the analysis. Or maybe it's a lab where the focus is really on the graphing component, But it's not like we're doing every single part. No, I like in every class in the first unit to do a lab that's like a big one. Like we're going to talk about hypotheses. We'll talk about all of the things, procedures and materials. We'll talk about getting the data, control variables, independent. Like we're going to hit all the things because I like to use that as an opportunity to essentially reteach them how to do a lab. And I usually block off 4 to 5 days for it. Like truly. Because we're just going to go so slow because half of it is going to be doing the actual lab and the other half is going to be teaching them how to be in a lab, period. And I think it's such a good ROI. It's such a good use of your time to do that at the beginning of the year and go really slow and train them. And when you see people acting a fool or doing things they're not supposed to be doing, like this is an opportunity to teach lab safety. Be like, okay, pause. Does anyone have glasses on top of their head and not on top of their eyeballs? Okay, let's stop. What do we need to do here? Or, hey, is anyone's hair down? And we've got a Bunsen burner flame going. Like taking that time, you can review how to use equipment, how to make measurements, safety, all these things. I think it's so important. My last, 2 more little tips about the chaos of lab day, because I just can't help myself. I also think treat yourself on lab day. Like, I know that sounds maybe silly, but it could be something as simple as like on lab day, you get a Starbucks coffee to go or a Dunkin' coffee to go, or, is it called 5 Brew? That we just got one of those where I live and everyone's freaking out about it. You get that to go coffee though on your way to school, and that's your special treat. Maybe it's going to be that you're going to get takeout for dinner on lab day night. So like I'm going to leave it all in the field at lab day today at work, but tonight I at least know I don't have to cook dinner. I think that is such a gift to yourself. It's just like I treat myself. Like I just know when we get home from a road trip that night, all my children need nutrition and they're all going to be like melting down no matter what. And I don't want to be cooking a big meal. So I have just made the executive decision now when we are driving home from like any trip, I Instacart a Publix rotisserie chicken, a bag of salad, and usually like some strawberries. And then we always have rice, and I make rice. And it's like a simple, plain, nutritious, everybody likes it. And it's basically no prep for me to make it. So do the same on your lab day. Treat yourself on that day. Like this is a special day. So let's not, plan to cook some elaborate meal for dinner that night or run a bunch of errands after school if that drains you. Like let's just try to make this a chill day. And speaking of that leads me to my last little tip regarding chaos is as best you can, scaffold scheduling your data collection days so that it's not so crazy. Because to me, that's the craziest part. I know some teachers prefer, and this is kind of one of those things like, I know some people are like, do a load of laundry a day so it never gets backed up. And others are like, I'd rather just have one day I do laundry the whole day so that the other 6 days I'm free. So this is totally a personality thing. For me personally, I don't like to have a lab in every class on the same day. I just don't have the energy for it. I don't have the patience. I'll be screaming by 5th period. So instead, I scaffold. So like if we're having a lab in my 3 biology classes, then chemistry, it's going to be like a day where we're doing like independent work or they're having a test. So I'm not even speaking to them barely. Okay. Be strategic about how you plan that stuff as best you can. I think that works really, really well, especially too, like, let's say you just teach, some of you are like, well, I teach 5 classes, I have 5 sections and 3 are honors bio and 2 are CP bio, but they're all bio. So I like to do all the lab on the same day. Okay. Well, one thing you do is say, hey, a lot of labs can work really well on the front end, more inquiry based for honors, and maybe on the back end as more of reinforcement for your non-honors. That's a simple thing, and that helps you scaffold. So say, hey, in honors class, we're going to do the photosynthesis lab, and the CP on grade level class, we're just going to be doing some direct instruction about photosynthesis. And then we switch. Honors does the direct instruction to follow up, whereas CP does the lab to follow up. So I think those are ways too you can scaffold if you have a lot of the same prep as well. But again, I truly think, to wrap this up, the most important thing you can do to help with hating labs, other than treating yourself, because I'm a big fan of that, is to make sure that you are doing the right labs. So please grab Labs When Limited. It is this free virtual PD course. You don't even have to do the whole course to grab the lab audit that's in it. Utilize the lab audit and then use some time this summer. This would be a great, like one of your mini goals this summer, how we talked about doing like one small thing per month. Say, hey, one of the months, I'm just going to like audit my labs and research and try to find good replacement labs. Okay. So here's how we're going to do this. This is your take home challenge. First, get Labs When Limited. get the lab audit and start doing it. Then as you're seeing where you need to get new labs, get in a Facebook group or hop on my Instagram post this week. I'm going to make an Instagram post that's like, hey, let's all share our best labs or share like a topic that you need help with. And let's comment back. If someone's like, I need a waves lab, you can comment back like some ideas you have that are good. And let's ask people though for their best lab suggestions. Or, hey, what do you think is the best lab you do in general in terms of ROI? Like, again, if someone asks me, what's the best lab you do all year long in biology? I would say ecosystem in a bottle because it's the culmination of everything we've done all year. It has such a wow factor, but such a good learning factor. Like, that's an interesting question to ask to hear from people in these Facebook groups and on social media or on X or whatever platform you like to use. And then use this summer to keep asking questions and getting comfortable with each lab you're doing, testing things out. If you need more support with labs, you can try my paid labs course or just get the Secondary Science Simplified bundle of courses, which will be everything you need, all the things you wish you learned in your teacher certification program. That's all available for you in the show notes at itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/episode 186. And leave a review today if you resonated with those confessions that I shared at the beginning of the podcast. And if you're excited for the rest of this series, we've got 3 more weeks of this where I'm going to be sharing teachers' true life confessions. So stay tuned for next week. All right, teacher friends, that wraps up today's episode. If you're looking for an easy way to start simplifying your life as a secondary science teacher, head to itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/challenge to grab your classroom reset challenge. And guess what? It's totally free. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you here next week. Until then, I'll be rooting for you, teacher friend.